All right, well, welcome to Thursday, and we're going to talk a little bit today about the stages of dating. And I think when we talk about the stages of dating, there's something that have changed probably since the last 20 years, and probably with the emergence of technology. Things have certainly taken a new turn, especially with the cell phone. Today, if we look at these stages, people enter into relationships, it seems very cautiously, and it's not like where, if you talk to your parents about this, where maybe they were introduced by someone. As I'm starting to go through these interviews, we were going to see that some people were introduced by people. Different people are, it could be a blind date. It could be that they met at a party, a chance encounter. Sometimes things were set up and they didn't even know that they were going to be, meeting this person. I met several people that way where you didn't even know that there was going to be this encounter, and they knew. It was kind of, you like, oh my gosh, that was unbelievable. I met this person, and meanwhile there were like 4 or 5 people behind the scenes trying to kind of plot and plan as things went along. You ask someone out on a date, and I think if you remember my pet peeves, the way things I think should go in life. We talked about pre-gaming. There's no pre-gaming. There's gaming, but there's no pre-gaming. And the other thing that I think that should be at the forefront is that if you want to go out with somebody, you should ask them. It is not unusual that a girl asks a guy at St. John's. There would be the celebration of Sadie Hawkins Day, which was February 29th. And on that day, people the girls would ask out the guys. It was a commuter school back then. So this was in the early 1980s. Girls would put flowers on the car of the guy that they liked, that they wanted to ask out, and that was their way of meeting them, where you kind of parked your car and you ran to your class. Now, what was really interesting is that, well, now all of a sudden you had this person that was interested in meeting you. Maybe they were in your class, maybe they were not in your class, but there was something about that person that caught your eye that you wanted to say, well, now maybe I want to date this person. And that was really very important. I think that's still important. I don't want to get away from that, the importance of understanding that you can, if you want to date someone, you should make that known and you should talk to that person about it. If we think about the stages of dating today, or the stages of these relationships, stage 1, Snapchat. To me, this is one of the most absurd concepts I've ever encountered when it comes to meeting people. And people are like, well, I really want to get to know him. I really want to get to know her. And you have streaks. And the streak is comprised of a blank screen. That, to me, is one of the most interesting things about how do I get someone's attention. And I understand that's what social media is about. When someone puts something on Instagram, they check, how many likes did I have? Are people watching what I'm doing? Are people interested in what I'm doing? That's a very, very understandable part of human nature. We want to walk into a party, and that we want to be, I think there's something going on behind me. There's something that I think that we want to make sure that people are engaged in who we are, in what we are, and they're happy that we're there, and they're truly interested in seeing us. I think that's an important part of that. So Snapchat, it can get someone's attention, but on the other side, why am I sending this flurry of activity where I'm telling nothing about myself? I'm not really sharing anything about myself. All I'm doing is say, hey, here I am. And maybe people doing that every single day. But I think we do have to consider, like, what is the nature of Snapchat? And whether you know this or not, Snapchat was invented as a sexting app, as a way for people to send pictures of themselves back and forth. Hopefully you're not doing that. There's nothing to me less seductive than that you hear someone, oh, I sent a picture of this part of my body or sent a picture of that. When we talk about lust, we talk about theology of the body, we talk about utilitarianism. There is no level of utilitarianism that could be any more degrading than just saying, here's a part of my body, and that's all I'm worth. So please consider that if it's been something that someone asks you to do something like that, or that's where someone's engaging you, that is something that you should avoid that part of the relationship. You should avoid that relationship maybe totally and completely, okay? So there is Snapchat. The next is that people start to text. And it's like, well, people say, well, we're talking. We're talking. What are we talking about? How long do we have to spend talking? And this is another part of the equation. It's like, well, I'm just with text or going back and forth. There's nothing like when you hear someone's voice, when you see that someone truly is interested in you, they want to get to know you. They want to get to see what you're really about. And there's nothing better than that, if you're truly attracted to them, than seeing the face and seeing what's really, really going on. And I think that's something that we have to understand. What exactly am I telling this person about myself? I used to have this rule, you can ask Mrs. Basile about this when you see her next. Still to this day, I try to avoid the movies. We watch many movies together, certainly at home. Tonight we have a movie that we're going to watch together. But when you're at the movies, especially for the first how many dates, you go to a movie theater, you're sitting quietly, and you're focused on the screen. You're not focused on the person next to you. You're not focused on what's going on. You're just there to watch something together. And I don't know, to me that's not the most productive way of getting to know the other person. You want to know what their likes are. Are they philosophically like me? Do they have the same interests that I have? That's a very, very important part of understanding, do I want a second date with this person? Right? Dating there's one major goal when it comes to dating. Some people in my neighborhood are taking down a tree, just so you know. They are not interested in my talk either. Can I get to the second date? Is this person someone that I am interested in possibly being with for the rest of my life? That is the measure of dating. Am I interested in maybe a second date and then a third date and then going beyond that to understand, do I want to be with this person as we move forward? Can I get to this next level with this person? Could I sit and talk to them for hours? This person should become your best friend, someone who you're with for the rest of your lives. You share joy, you share sorrow, you go through death together, you go through the sickness together. If you are not best friends, and if you are not able to communicate always, and even to compromise, the relationship will be doomed. How do I get to this part of the relationship where I can share everything? There's one person in this world that knows everything about me, and that's the person inside this house, my wife. She knows things about me that no one else knows. I'm not afraid to share because I know she doesn't judge me. But you need to make that choice. Snapchat really is not going to show that. Texting is only going to show a little glimpse of who you are in the levels of communication. Then you move to the next level where we're talking to each other. Well, talking certainly helps a little bit. If you're talking on the phone, it's one thing. But why don't you just do it in person? There are people, it's like, well, we did Snapchat for a while, and then we did this for a month or two, and then we went out and we started dating. Why don't you just start dating? Why don't you sit across in a little restaurant, a little pizzeria? Why don't you go bowling? Why don't you hang out together and say, is this worth doing again? Is this worth doing one more time? That really becomes the essence of dating. Do I want to spend more time with this person? Do I want to be with this person even more? You know people in Kellenberg that you've hung out with. Certain people you still hang out with. There are certain people that's like, nah, I don't know. You can grow apart. The same thing can happen when you're in a relationship with another person. Well, we were dating for a little while. and then I thought I was really into the person, then it goes. Remember, we talked about the rush of emotions. When you fall in love, you can fall in love for a week. You could fall in love for 2 months. You could fall in love for a long amount of time. But we talked about that is going to fade away. And when that fades away, what are you going to replace it with? Well, you replace it with true, genuine love. If that's indeed what you want to love, if you are putting effort into the relationship, keep that in mind when it comes to dating. What am I putting into my relationships? Do I date positively? When the dating cycle is centered around the hookup, it's not going to go very far. Because am I really, really into this person, or is it all about just the physical part? If there's nothing more than the physical part, then maybe there's nothing much at all to the relationship. Do I want to have a full conversation with this person? Do I really want to be with this person? Can I talk hours about my desires, about things that I want to do in life? You're getting ready to go off to college. Can I talk about what I want to be someday? Can you help me to see things about me that are maybe my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What do I want to do? Who do I want to be? Do you want to be along this journey with me? That's what we're trying to figure out as we move ahead. That becomes part of the cycle of dating. I don't know if Snapchat's going to do that. Certainly texting is only going to be, maybe for me, what I recommended just in the very introductory stages. Ask people out. Spend time with them. Come to understand what you want in a relationship, what you want in a spouse. Marriage is hard. Marriage is difficult. There are a lot of people that look at the marriage interview, and there are a lot of people that don't want to talk about their marriage, because marriage is hard. Some people fight more than they have gentle conversations with each other. Marriage is a very, very difficult thing. Half of the marriages that start end. So it becomes something to think about as you start to date. Can I be with this person? Not only is it going to be about the emotional rush, can I love this person for the rest of my life? That becomes the biggest question that you need to ask yourself. Can this person, and this is another thing that you often hear people say, well, I'm with my boyfriend or with my girlfriend and we fight all the time. The only thing that you should really have to decide when you're dating is, where are we going, where are we hanging out, who are we hanging out with? That is the only thing that you have to worry about. You should not have to worry about trying to, argue about this part of the relationship, that part of the relationship. If you're arguing, then you're possibly not with the right person. Maybe it's time to move on. And I always tell people, you should be with people that make you feel good about yourselves. Men, you put women on a pedestal, and this is not a chauvinistic thing. You treat them the way that you would want your mother to be treated, your sisters to be treated, the women in your life. You want to treat them that very same way. Women, you treat the men in your life, and you give them that same respect that you demand from them. I always tell my daughter, you tell the guy that you're with that you want to be treated like a queen. There's nothing wrong with that. You tell the women in your life, if you're a man, how good they look, how much you love them, what you want to do and take care of them. And the same thing should happen for women taking care of men. To think about, how do I take care of these people that I'm with? We're going to talk more about dating, and I'll tell you some stories about some of my own relationships. But for there, we'll leave that at that. If you want to go out on a date, ask. Enjoy the interaction, the respect that you have for each other, and get to know each other. Have a great day, and we'll talk a little bit more about dating tomorrow. Thanks.